Other than Skype being Skype, it was fine.
Bring us in on this. Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of Westerospective, where we bring Game of Thrones, the old seasons and the new, focusing on the old today. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
Today we are covering Season 3, Episode 3, Walk of Punishment, but keep in mind these are a Westerospective where we kind of correlate the current seasons in retrospect to the old seasons and kind of like how they build upon each other. So, spoiler warnings for all of Game of Thrones, please for the love of God. I don't know why you'd be stumbling upon a Game of Thrones show at this stage and not be caught up like the rest of the world, but covering our bases. So the first thing I noticed when watching this episode is this is the only episode of television that Benioff has ever directed.
Oh, yeah?
Because I noticed it because I usually like to pay attention to the writing and directing credits. I noticed that it was directed by him, and I found it very odd because you don't see Benioff or Weiss attached to anything other than the writing. Right. And I looked it up, and this was the only other thing he ever directed was a short. And I thought he did a pretty damn good job. Like it's a really solid episode. He did a damn
good job. I wonder why, if all he'd ever done before was a short, why he decided to direct this.
I think sometimes, I think when you get into the position where you can do it, you're almost as curious to try it. Like I wonder if since this was season 3, and he never directed again. My only assumption is because the quality is there. It's a really, really, really well put together and directed episode. My only thing is maybe he didn't like doing it. Because like a lot of people say that, writing and directing is two totally different things. Sometimes people can do both, but it doesn't necessarily mean you enjoy doing both of them.
Right. Or it could just be, he's able to say he directed an episode of Game of Thrones now.
Also, it could just be the later on they had to put even more work onto the scripts, because I can imagine from the first few seasons when they still have books in the shelf they can go off of, it makes it a little bit easier than having to email George R.R. Martin while he's playing, fucking table tennis by himself and not writing the books.
Right.
Trying to figure out what the fuck they're doing. So I would imagine it's a little bit more time consuming now. But the episode opens up with the Tully funeral for, is it Kat's
father?
Okay.
Yeah. Dude,
the scene with the arrows.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, the Doctor Who guy missing the arrow.
Yeah.
What is it? He tries 3 times before Blackfish says stand aside, and
I fucking love Blackfish, dude.
Oh god, I love Blackfish.
Is such an awesome character.
The way he looks at him before he walks off, he fires it, gives him this look as he walks off, and then the arrow hits. Like he already knew he got it before he even walked off.
Since they're making 17 spinoffs, can I have my Blackfish show?
Right?
I really, really want a Blackfish show. But yeah, it's Edmure. I like how Game of Thrones, it's so bleak 99% of the time. And what's one of the few scenes where it's full on kind of comedy? It's a fucking funeral.
Right.
Because they have that shot where you see Rob in the background laughing as he's trying to keep down the laugh because they're at a fucking funeral, but he's laughing to himself because of fucking Edmure sucking at he has one job and he fails at that job. Now I believe they follow up the funeral with talk of how Edmure fucked them over battle-wise too.
Yes.
Because they transition back to where it's just Blackfish, Rob, and Edmure talking about how Edmure has basically gone rogue and kind of sacked a Lannister fort, which he was not supposed to do, and he would have learned as Rob had arrived that day why.
Yeah, the battle plan was to fish out the mountain and to take out the mountain, because I think he said they would have waited out the mountain and they would have retreated and the mountain would have followed them right into an ambush.
Yeah, he talks about how like he wanted them, where they could easily surround them, not retreating, and everything.
Right, and he has the line of, "I could have had the mountain's head on a spike, and now I have a mill." And in the background, Blackfish just like, yeah,
Blackfish is the shit.
Oh, good.
Totally awesome. Good acting by Richard Madden. I liked the acting by Rob and the way he was directing that episode in that scene. Good stuff.
Yeah,
we don't have very many episodes left with Rob, so you can't.
No, we don't.
Yeah,
I think is it his cousin? Rob is his cousin, I think.
Whose cousin?
The dude that fucked up with the mill.
Okay, Ed Muir is Catelyn's brother, so he would be his uncle, I believe.
Really?
And Blackfish is Catelyn's uncle, so Blackfish would be Rob's great uncle. I believe.
Yeah, because he kept calling him, I guess, nephew then, and Blackfish is like, he's your king. You don't get to call him nephew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that part.
Yep. All right, the next scene they go to is another classic scene with the chairs.
Oh, I fucking love the chairs.
This whole sequence is beautiful because they don't say a word for like 3 minutes of screen time, which when you think about it, is fucking amazing when you're talking about Game of Thrones dialogue, the TV show.
Yeah, it's riveting. Whether they're talking or not, it's riveting.
It says so much to each of their individual characters just based off how they arrange themselves when they go to sit down at this table, because Tywin is obviously at the head of the table. Littlefinger cuts off Varys and Pycelle to get first in line because he's Mr. Suck Up. Right. Varys is just like, what the fuck, And then Cersei takes her chair to go sit next to Tywin, but then when Tyrion goes in and just drags the fucking chair, and they amp it up with a Foley artist to the max of the squeakiest chair sounds you can imagine, and it is just comedic gold. I love the whole scene.
Yeah, that whole scene is fantastic, and he's dragging it to sit on the end of the table,
on the opposite head of the table,
opposite Tywin. Yeah,
and I like how it's just so funny. Like the first thing he says is like, "So we were talking." He's talking because it's a new council room. He's just like conveniently.
It's new everything. It's a new table, new chairs. Yeah. He remarks on that.
And
then he remarks
like,
how it's closer to Tywin's
conveniently close
room.
To your chambers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really the only things of note to talk about as far as what their discussions. This is when they reveal they are sending Littlefinger to the Vale to be married to Lysa, I believe is her name. I believe
so, yeah.
And
the thing I never caught before was he said that she was always predisposed to him. So, Lysa's Kat's sister. So the triangle was then he's in love with Kat, but Kat's sister's in love with him.
Yep.
Like I never picked up on that before because Lysa, I always knew her as the crazy bitch. I never really knew her name very well. Because you don't see her a whole lot after, is it season 1? With Tyrion and everything? Tyrion and Bronn there, the Vale?
Yeah, it would be kind of midway in season 1. You might see her in passing at some point in season 2, but I can't remember offhand if she does make an appearance.
Yeah, so, this deep into the show when someone's gone for like a whole season, where you have so many characters to keep track of.
Yeah, it's hard for us to keep track of doing research and rewatching the episodes multiple times. If it's been 3 years real time since you've seen the character and you haven't read the novels, like good luck remembering that person.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, I never picked up on that. That was new to me.
It's they go into a little bit more detail with that later on, and I believe it's season 4 when they start having the scenes, or maybe 5. I can't remember, but when they go to have more scenes at the Vale, they develop a little bit more of how she's kind of a little bit obsessed with Littlefinger, but Littlefinger is only there for the title.
Yeah.
And then since Littlefinger is no longer Master of Coin, Tywin dubs Tyrion Master of Coin, literally just to watch him basically set up for failure.
I was going to say he's setting him up to fail. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. Even Tyrion's just like, you're really, really great at spending money, not so much at saving it. Do you have anything else to add with that portion?
Nope.
Okie doke. From there, we go to Jaime and Brienne, who are tied up on the horse. They've been caught by Locke and his Bolton dudes, and they have a lot of. I like the way their conversations framed, even though they're kind of tied to each other. Like the way they flip back and forth, is that they are kind of. It's like it's framed as if they're looking at each other having a conversation when they actually are tied to each other. You know.
Yeah.
But there's really, I'm trying to remember. Did you have any notes with that scene? I'm trying to remember what exactly they talk about.
No, I didn't have any notes with that scene. Apparently, to the best of my memory, it was just basically like, should have killed him. Should have killed him.
I'm now remembering. I think he does bring up, you are going to be raped tonight once we make camp.
Yeah, he does.
And then he tells her not to fight.
He says that they've never had noblewoman before or something.
Yeah, she asks him, would you fight? He's like, oh, they'd have to kill me. So thank God I'm not a woman. I think that's the last exchange that they have.
Yeah.
The next scene they go to in the episode is with Gendry, Arya, and Thoros. This is right after that Thoros has figured out that Arya is a Stark. So obviously he is keeping her with their camp because she is worth quite a pretty penny.
Yes.
They have also got the Hound chained up where they are going to probably be... Wait, no, where would you think they would be taking the Hound exactly in this scenario?
I don't know, because later they're like wanting him to join them. So I would assume since they have him, they're just like making sure he doesn't escape to get him back to camp. So what's the dude that dies and comes back?
Beric Dondarrion.
I assume they're just basically, detaining him to take to him.
Just to kind of see if he wants to join him.
Yeah, because later when he's face to face with him, that guy tries to recruit him like several times in the conversation. So my guess is that they finally got him. Whether he wants to or not, he's going to go see him.
I'm so excited to see in the new season with the Hound actually being with the Brotherhood. Like, I think they're going to do some cool stuff with him.
Yeah, I love when the guy puts the bag over his head and then rams his head into the top of the carriage.
Yeah.
He's like, watch your head.
The archer dude.
Yeah.
And then they end the scene with Hot Pie being left behind. It's kind of sad because Hot Pie is just straight up kind of sold. He is sold into bread slavery at the end.
Yeah.
It is kind of a touching little scene though, like where he bakes her the little wolf
the little wolf
loaf of bread. Yeah, and they're like, so this is the tale.
Yeah,
it's kind of adorable. It's like oh, Hot Pie, you're kind of a pain in the ass, but now that you're gone, it's kind of sad. The next scene they go to is with Blackfish and Cat in a really cool... Any scene with any excuse to get Blackfish on screen is fucking A-okay in Geoff's book.
I think this scene's the first time we even hear the name Blackfish, right?
I think he has been referred to it a couple of times, but this is the first time they've elaborated on a little bit behind that it is like his nickname and how he talks about how I don't think people would even remember what my actual name is now if I went with anything else. It's mostly just there to give kind of background on Kat with her dad because they're reflecting on, since it was right after the funeral.
Right.
Did you have any other notes for that portion?
Nope, I didn't have any notes at all. I just listed the scene.
I have found
that whole scene was basically about Catelyn and her regrets.
Yeah,
because she was comparing, how she would wait all the time for her father to return, and she starts talking about how she's not there for her kids to return to. She doesn't even know where they are or if they're alive, anything like that, and the whole thing kind of flips to current events from that story.
It's pretty devastating too, because I think maybe the last thing she says before they transition is that I'll never see them again. And then if you rewatch it, it's true. She never sees them again.
I like the part where Blackfish, though, says something like Rob believes that they're alive. Just basically saying that you should too. You need to support him because everything he's doing is to get them back.
Yeah.
So, because, if you don't believe they're alive, then everything Rob's doing is meaningless.
Oh, I don't think we had talked about it yet, but in the earlier scene with Rob, Blackfish, and Edmure, that was when they confirmed he had the Lannister cousins.
Yes.
Which is the next scene they transition to. They actually show the Lannister cousins with Talissa. Now, this is interesting. Did you notice which actor was playing one of the cousins, the one who has dialogue?
No.
The Lannister cousin who speaks in the episode to Talissa is the actor who ends up playing Tommen. I guess they liked the actor enough, they bumped him into a more prominent role, which is kind of funny because he plays a Lannister who gets killed, only to play another Lannister who gets killed later on. So he gets double whammied by the end of his fucking screen time. It's kind of crazy. But when I saw him, I recognized his face, but he's a couple of years younger and they have him dressed up a little bit different. I was like, is that the same fucking kid? I had to look it up. It's like, sure enough, he on his IMDb, it is both Martin and Tommen Lannister. So
interesting.
They'll switch around everyone, but goddamn Brandon Rickon, bastards. I just found that kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I didn't even notice it.
Next up, we are going back to the Wildling troop marching around. With Mance, Tormund, Snow, Egret, and the bunch. Now, this
and the rest.
Now, this is really important for the most recent season because this is the scene I'd forgotten about where they go back and find the slaughter left behind from the Wildling attack. But obviously the bodies aren't going to be there because
it's just the horses.
It's just the horses, but they're aligned in the spiral. Yeah. Which ends up playing heavily into the children because that was part of like their ritual to create them in the first place, right? They had rearranged basically the ritual markings in the spiral, and that's where they got it from. I had totally forgotten about that scene.
I'm trying to remember in the very first episode, weren't those bodies arranged in the spiral also?
Yeah, I remembered that one. I'd forgotten about this one.
Mm-hmm.
Once they became because it was a really big deal once they had the whole White Walker reveal and everything, but I'd forgotten how it had tied in. This scene is when they confirm basically what ends up being the attack on Castle Black, because Mance's whole thing is he's sending Tormund, Snow, and Egret to climb the wall, which, by the way, fuck that. I just want to make that abundantly clear. I would rather get torn in half by the giant then I'm so terrified of heights. Just like the concept of freeballing my way up that wall that is like, what is it, like 18,000 feet? Some ridiculous fucking number they always are out there. It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that. Fuck a lot of that. This is when Mance says he ends the scene before they transition where he's like, I'll make the biggest fire the North's ever seen or something like that. And he ends up doing it because when you think back to God, I can't wait to watch that episode eventually. It's so fucking good. I love season 4. I love all season 4.
That's the scythe, right? The big ass scythe on the wall?
Yep. Yeah, that's like the whole episode is just the fight.
Dude, my brain when I first saw that episode just went.
Yeah, that because like they hit you with the mind blowing action behind it, like the crazy effects, because it's huge in scale, but then they also just fucking gut punch you with some of the character deaths that happen.
Yes.
It's pretty impressive for Game of Thrones to still be able to gut punch you with character deaths when you're watching Game of Thrones. By that point, you should be expecting to be kicked in the nuts, but from time to time.
Everybody really liked him.
No. From there, they transition to the Night's Watchman going back to Craster's. This is the first time I believe we see Burn Gorman.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I have in my notes.
Which, for what that role ends up being, could they have picked a better guy for that? When the guy
for those like 2 episodes he's in.
When the guy ends up drinking out of a fucking skull, like that is
Mormont's skull.
That is a Baron Gorman role because that guy can play creepy like no other.
Oh yes.
They are in Craster's Keep, and this is when you hear in the background, it's actually Gilly giving birth to baby Sam.
Women, am I right?
Even in a show of scumbags, he stands out amongst the rest.
What a dick!
Fucking Craster. Is he still alive? Did they ever kill Craster? I can't remember.
I think they do when Baron Gorman and them take over.
They take over.
Yeah,
we got to be.
We're just a couple episodes away from.
Yeah,
that,
I think we're getting really close to that now that I think about it. Did you have anything else to add with that portion?
No, the biggest thing I had was our first Baron Gorman sighting, and then Gilly giving birth to baby Sam.
Yeah. All right.
I have only one note with this next scene.
Why don't you lead us in with it then?
Ramsay is a cock.
Moving on. Actually, that could basically sum up the next 2.5 seasons of the show, almost.
Because the next scene is Ramsay staging his helping Theon escape, right?
Okay. I had forgotten just how elaborate this whole thing is.
Oh, I know. He even kills his own men.
Exactly, because the next scene they show, we're going to jump ahead a little bit, but it doesn't really matter, but the next scene is actually, I believe, him getting him on the horse and sending him on his way.
Yes.
But the later details that are revealed of just how elaborate this whole hoax is just crazy, because, what I remembered was this story, this little subplot being over much more quickly than it actually goes about, because in my brain it was always Theon tricked him and then he let him go just to immediately go catch him. No, from what you end up seeing, it looks like Theon's been out for a couple of days.
Yeah,
you can take it. I don't know exactly the amount of time, but it can be taken that way. And then, like you said, how he ends up setting up his own guys. It's
the first time I ever saw this, because we're getting into territory that I've only seen stuff once now, and when that one guy sees him and recognizes him, that has a whole new context when you know who Ramsay is.
It is beautiful foreshadowing for the entirety of Ramsay's character that goes over your head a little bit. Something's up because of what he says, but with the context of knowing what he's doing and how elaborate his little prank is on Theon, it's beautifully done.
If you want to, Ramsay is summed up in one scene, and that's with the sausage. That completely sums up Ramsay.
Which it makes me think of, I was stumbling around on YouTube a couple of weeks back. I stumbled upon one clip where it was last year's Comic-Con when Conan O'Brien had the whole cast out for a Comic-Con or something. And he asked the Theon actor, he's just so what is it like when people come up to you and even though you play the most revolting character ever on television, what do you say when people say oh, you're my favorite? He's just you're kind of fucked up. Yeah, it just made me crack up. All right. Did you have any while we're talking the Theon thing, I'll just go ahead and add my later on note so we can wrap up that subplot. He lets him go on the horse, right?
Yeah.
So that's one rescue. He's taken him away from the torture device. He's gotten him on the horse. And then by not only killing his own guys, he has rescued him 3 fucking times just to end up doing what he does to him. It's just Jesus Christ. It is such a...
And since we're going to talk about that, let's talk about that sound effect when he takes the mace to the face. He gets knocked off his horse.
Yeah, it knocks the air out of you just watching.
He sits there just all you can hear is a tone and he's just knocked senseless and stuff. I felt like I got hit with it listening to that the way it was filmed. And you hear Alfie, that gut-wrenching, like bone-shattering sound.
Yeah, Alfie Allen, I think is the name of the peon actor.
I believe so.
He crushes that.
He crushes getting crushed.
Yeah, that look on his face when he has gotten the wind knocked out of him, like, you buy it.
Dude, he literally got knocked senseless.
Because, like, getting hit with a flail and falling off a horse both suck, but together from causality, not so much fun.
You heard it here first. Getting hit in the face with a flail sucks.
Kinda sucks.
Kinda sucks.
We break the big news here on Westerospective. Okay. Did you have anything?
The Red Priestess.
Okay. So this is the beginning of the end of Gendry's ongoing boat adventure, because she is heading out. The
life of Gendry.
She is heading out after Gendry, and yeah, there's not really much else going on. They do confirm they kind of covered their bases as far as covering the plot hole as to why Stannis doesn't send out more of the shadowy demon assassin things, because she tells him, you can't take it, you'll die. Yeah. I did find that interesting because I'd forgotten about that. Because it doesn't, if he could systematically wipe everyone out like that, it would be a plot hole. So it makes sense because, like, how
awesome would that be? You bang a smoking hot redhead to kill your enemies.
Yep,
smoking hot as far as he knows.
I see what you did there, smoking hot with Melisandre. Well, we might as well just wrap up the episode now.
But yeah, I mean, just how awesome would that be? That's how you take out all your enemies.
Yeah, it's a hard life.
It's hard being Stannis.
Okay, next up, they go to Jorah and Barristan with Khaleesi. This is a cool scene. This is when they're talking of Rhaegar, about how Barristan... Because I think the inclusion of Barristan with Khaleesi storyline has always been really interesting to me, because he can provide a lot of backstory for her because he actually fought alongside some of her relatives.
Right.
Which is an interesting dichotomy, because the only one of her relatives she's ever been around is her cockstain brother, who, you know, is no longer with us for obvious reasons.
Thud.
Yeah. God, I love that episode so much. It just makes me happy. I've never been more happy to see someone get killed than I was in that fucking episode.
That scene is so metal, too.
Yeah.
Ba-dum-bum.
I want it to be a Foley artist for Game of Thrones, because I want to just, like, how do you go about... So, like, you're reading the script, it's like, such and such, boiling gold hardens, and we have to have his head hit the ground with a thud. Like, how do you even go about making that sound effect is beyond me.
I have no idea.
So, I cannot wait for the end of the Slavers storyline, but this is more setup for it. Khaleesi, well, first of all, I had alluded to it. Did you have anything else to add about where Jorah and them are talking about Rhaegar? I like the line where Jorah is like, you know, he fought nobly, he fought bravely, and then Rhaegar died, type of thing. Where
I loved their back and forth on that, because, like, you could tell that Barristan is trying to back up Khaleesi, but he can't help but admit that Jorah is absolutely right on everything he's saying.
Yeah.
Because he's like, so Barristan, have you ever known an army to win with blah, blah, blah? And he's like, no.
Goddamn.
Yeah.
Because they're also kind of jockeying for position to be, because they want to be, you know, her right-hand man, not just one of the council, you know.
It's a dick measuring contest.
Exactly. Now, this is interesting, too. I had never actually thought about it, or because it was probably something, it's a minor detail that's cool, but it goes over your head and doesn't stick in your memory. But I like the detail where one of the selling points of the, oh god, what's the name of the slave guys she wants?
The Unsullied.
The Unsullied is that they will not rape and pillage because the way they've been brought up. I thought that was actually interesting, because it makes a lot of sense, because her whole thing is that she wants to get away from all of the senseless violence outside of the battlefield that is a result of the wars, you know.
Right.
So
Yeah, no, that was an interesting point that Jorah brought up.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's one of the things that makes Game of Thrones so cool is that type of attention to detail.
Yeah,
that really fleshes out the characters and all their motivations and everything. So she goes up to Mr. Krasny's and they're doing the whole bartering where she wants all 8,000. They do not want to give her all 8,000 because they are expecting her to get her ass handed to her. And if the whole army gets their ass kicked, it makes their whole little city look bad because they, raised the whole army from the ground up, And then she tells them she will sell them one of the dragons. I know I like when she says, "I will give you one of the dragons," and then Krasny's is, translating back and forth with Missandei. She's and Khaleesi's like 1. He's like 3, 1, 2, 1. Okay.
The biggest.
The biggest, yeah. And then she adds to the deal that she's going to take Missandei with her. And trying to remember what... did you have any other details to go along with that one? Any notes?
I was so dumb watching this episode the first time. I never picked up that she makes it pretty clear that she speaks the language talking to Missandei while they're walking away.
How does she go? How does she confirm it? I can't remember.
Are they speaking Valerian? What are they speaking? What's the name of the language?
I don't think it's Valerian.
That's a movie coming up. It's something like that, but all I can think is Valerian because I've seen that damn trailer so many times. Well, I mean Valerian steel. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, she says that all men must die in that language to Missandei.
Well, I think that could be. I don't know if that is actually the exact same language. That's something we probably need one of the novel.
Also, when he's telling Missandei, like he's talking in the language and Missandei's translating, before she even translates, like Khaleesi rolls her eyes at stuff and everything. Like they're making it fairly obvious that she understands what's going on.
Yeah.
And I was too dumb to pick up on that the first time.
Yeah, you kind of take it at face value. You have no reason to think otherwise,
Right.
Oh, she does warn Jorah and Barristan to never backtalk her again.
Yeah.
Which is she is so fucking great in that role because she is talking to two of like the most fearsome badasses. And then when she tells them off, they are like quaking in their boots. Almost. When
she says that she'll give him a dragon, and he says 3, and she says 1, he says 2, she says 1, he says the biggest one, and she said agreed. That is the Khaleesi of today. The look on her face, the tone in her voice, like that moment onward is like the Khaleesi that we know. Because she's just had it up to here, and that's the first time that whatever it is she wants is going to go her way.
I just want to get to the episode where she sacks the city. I want it so bad because I'm just going to put on a loop for like 3 hours and just watch it over and over and over again.
3 hours? That's almost to the limit.
From there, we go to Tyrion and Littlefinger, where Littlefinger is basically trying to get Tyrion up to speed as being the master of coin. And this ends up being one of my favorite scenes, I think, of the entire show, because this is where Tyrion pays Pod for being loyal to him by giving him the 2 process. Was it 2 or 3 process? I think it might be 3. And then he just comes back with the bag of coin, and then just like the dialogue exchange between the two of them, where they're just like, "Pod, sit down."
Of course, I like it. They're paid to like it, except they weren't paid.
And then Bronn's just like,
"Wait, what? Are you telling me that they enjoyed the boys so much they gave the money back?" And then they both go,
they're just flabbergasted. Like it's Tyrion and Bronn.
They're always happy to take my money.
Tyrion and Bronn are both rendered speechless, which will never happen again in the rest of the series. Copious details. That's the the quote I'd written down.
They're like pouring him a glass of wine and stuff.
Yeah, so good. Okay, the next scene they go from there is the Theon thing we talked about earlier, where he stages like the
High Valyrian. That is the name of the language. High Valyrian.
High Valyrian. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I was thinking that's not right because the movie Valyrian, and I play one of the stupid games on my phone that if I want like special currency or whatever, I have to like watch an ad, and it's always that stupid Valyrian trailer. So I've seen that trailer so many times.
Or are you not wanting to? I thought you'd be all over it since it's from the Fifth Element guy.
I am. I'm just tired of seeing the same trailer. I have to watch it like every 30 minutes. So
yeah,
it's like killing me.
And yeah, since we already covered the Theon story, we're down to the ending of the episode. This is back to Jaime and Brienne while they're still in the encampment. Jaime saves Brienne from being raped by coming up with the Sapphire story, which I really like this scene. This is one of the first scenes where you start to see there's more sides to Jaime.
Yes.
Because like one of the most interesting character transgressions for me in this show is Jaime. Because the first episode, the dude kicks a 7-year-old or whatever kid out of a fucking window to kill him. For the only crime that he committed was he caught him sleeping with his freaking sister. And then
the queen.
Who is the queen? And then you end up finding yourself liking that guy. Like that the show does that magic trick better than any series ever will again. Because like the two I often go back and forth on as far as like
and what I think they do it too, because he's a cold and callous bastard. And then when he's traveling and stuff, he's still a dick, but he's kind of charming in a way to the viewer. And then he's a dick to everyone, but his scenes with Brienne later, he's a totally like different person every time she's in the scene with him. Because she's like the one person that can see like the real him, and then he's just a dick to everyone else around him. And the only reason you get to see it is you're the viewer.
Yeah,
it's interesting dynamic the way they do it.
Because like it's interesting. Like the two shows I always go back and forth on what I think is the best show I've ever seen are Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones, and they're both because of how good they handle character development. But it's cool because when you compare the two, because with Breaking Bad, obviously you are tracking the path from good to evil, but with Game of Thrones, it starts out where they appear evil, but then they, with each passing season, with each new character dynamic they introduce, as far as like having Jaime with the Brienne, they start peeling back layers of the gray, where you get to a point to where even though you have every reason in the world to fucking hate Jaime Lannister, you kind of like the guy.
Yeah,
and it's crazy.
The thing that's always been great about Game of Thrones to me is the fact that most of the characters are gray. Some are black, some are white, but most of them are gray. And even the despicable ones, you can kind of get behind the reasoning. You find yourself agreeing with them on things. And you're just like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, it's done so masterfully, and that's part of the way they do it is you spend so much time with the characters. I can only imagine if you like these characters as much as you do in the show, how much you would in the book, getting their inner dialogue and everything else also.
Yeah. I mean, I need to get started on the books. It's just never-ending line of fucking novels I need to read to get caught up on. But and he pays for it. Like Jaime's really the first act he has had in the show, which was noble. And he pays a heavy price for it. He loses his sword hand. Yeah, which is specifically devastating to him because he could have tortured him in many different ways. Locke could have, but what does he do? He removes him of his sword hand. He
removes him of the one the best skill that he had.
The only thing that made him special. Yeah, because he pisses him off because because Locke's one of the type of characters who has built himself up from nothing. While Jaime could get anything he ever wanted because of his last name. And yeah, it's just really interesting dynamic. It's why partially too just because of how much Nikolai Coster-Waldau crushes that role of Jaime. Because like we talked about when we went back to the very
Say that one more time. I've always seen his name, but I never dared pronounce it.
Nikolai Coster-Waldau is the way you pronounce his name.
Nikolai Coster-Waldau.
Nikolai Coster-Waldau. He sounds almost like a Mario villain or something.
I was going to say, so Nikolai like Russian, Coaster like you set your cup on, and then Waldo like where's Waldo?
Where's Walt? Yeah. Yeah, because like we talked about when we went back to the very first episode, the first couple episodes, the actor we said was the MVP was him.
Yeah.
To me, because even you know like, even Peter Dinklage was still finding his character. He knew from fucking line one exactly. Because like when you think about it, when you think back to the very last dialogue exchange in the first episode, after he, you know, right before he kicks Bronn out the window, and he's like, "The things I do for love." The way he delivers that line is the exact same way he's delivering the lines of dialogue in season 6.
Yeah.
All those years later, it's really impressive to me. And did you have anything else you wanted to add with the last sequence? Did you want to talk about the music choice at the end? Well, they took a. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say one thing that's disturbing that they get more in your face with in later scenes, especially with Ramsay and stuff, is the entire time Jaime is talking to the dude to try to talk Brienne's way out of being raped, hearing her scream in the background. Constantly.
It's unnerving.
It is so disturbing. And, you know, they fucking knew that when they did it. That's why they did it. But I guess it's a nice touch. I don't know. It's listen. There's something about that you're just cringing the entire time because you know what's happening back there.
And it's also just because they juxtapose it to how awful that is compared to how smooth he's delivering his lines of talking her.
I was gonna say, and then he's being like perfectly calm and like rational and everything. And really, this is the first time you've seen Brienne break.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to mention that because watching that, I'm just sitting there like,
that's a good point.
Oh my god.
It's one of those things where you feel gross watching it. Like you want to take a shower right after the scene's over.
Yes.
Did you want to talk about the music choice? They took a lot of shit for the music choice. It's one of those things where to me it never bothered me because it was so out of left field. I kind of liked it.
Well, I feel like the whole point, you know, was to be exact opposite of the last thing you left on. That's a trick Walking Dead ends like a couple episodes a season on. But yeah, that it's just so jarring. You go from severed hand and to the music, and you're just like, oh my god, what just happened?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's so weird that it like comes all the way back around to working for me, and I can't explain why. I just kind of like it. It's
something that like Matthew Vaughn or like someone like that would do, you know?
Because it's a rock song adaptation of I forget what the fucking name of the song is, but it's like the song they open up the episode on. The guys with Locke in their camp are singing it as they're on horseback.
Who's the guy that did like Rock and Rolla and stuff like that?
Guy Ritchie. I can see that's like a Guy Ritchie thing.
It's like a Guy Ritchie move.
I want to watch a Guy Ritchie directed episode of Game of Thrones now really bad. I want them to bring in Brad Pitt where he's his gypsy character from fucking Snatch where you can't understand what he's saying. Have you ever seen Snatch?
No.
It's a really good movie. Brad Pitt plays a gypsy who is like the whole movie you can't understand a fucking word. They got Brad Pitt for a movie in which you can't understand a single word that he says the entire movie, and it's fucking magical.
Only if he's eating the entire time like in Ocean's 11.
He probably is because he eats in every fucking movie. But yeah, it's really good. I recommend it. But yeah, any other notes you want to touch on before we sign off?
No.
All right.
If what I think is happening in the next episode, though, is the next episode is titled "And Now His Watch Has Ended." Is that Burn Gorman going to town on Mormont?
With Mormont, I would imagine. I believe the next episode, Mormont dies, and then they end the next episode on Khaleesi sacking the city. I believe that's the next episode.
Nothing wrong with that.
Which I can't fucking wait. Yes, please check us out more. Like and subscribe. That gets you all of our content. We also have Let's Plays of VOD each week where we cover the news in movies, TV, and gaming. This week we will be talking about the brand new hotness that is the Game of Thrones Season 7 official trailer, which, good God Almighty, give it to me now.
Oh my God.
We have social media links for Facebook and Twitter in the description, and please share us out. We would really appreciate it. For this night and all the nights to come, I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron, and now this watch has ended.